Stop waiting for someone to tell you that you are capable. You already have more ability than you are using. The problem is not always a lack of talent. Sometimes it is hesitation, distraction, weak habits, and the habit of doubting yourself before you even begin. Act as if you are the best does not mean believing you are better than everyone else. It means refusing to give less than your best effort. It means walking with confidence, working with discipline, learning from your mistakes, and expecting more from yourself every single day. You do not need to prove that you are better than another person. You need to prove that you are capable of becoming better than the person you were yesterday. From this moment forward, stop asking for permission to grow. Raise your standards, strengthen your habits, and take your own potential seriously. Because when you finally start acting like your future matters, your entire life begins to change. There is a version of you that is capable of much more than you have shown so far. That version is not a different person. It is you with stronger habits, clearer standards, better decisions, and greater confidence in your own ability to improve. The problem is that many people spend years living below their actual ability because they have accepted an opinion about themselves that was formed long ago. Someone told them they were not smart enough. Someone criticized their choices. A failure embarrassed them. A difficult season made them doubt themselves. After hearing those messages long enough, they begin to treat them as facts. But an old opinion is not a permanent identity. You have to be careful about the words you use when you describe yourself. If you repeatedly say, "I am not good at this," you may stop practicing. If you say, "I never succeed," you may stop taking opportunities. If you say, "People like me cannot achieve that," you may never give yourself enough time to discover what you can actually do. Your mind listens to the way you speak about your own life. Your behavior often follows those beliefs. This does not mean pretending that you are already perfect. It does not mean walking into every room believing that you know more than everybody else. It does not mean ignoring your weaknesses. Real confidence has nothing to do with pretending. Real confidence comes from knowing that you can learn, adapt, practice, and become better. You may not be the best person in your field today. That is fine. You do not need to be. What matters is that you stop using your current position as a reason to limit your future. A person who is willing to learn can become highly capable. A person who accepts correction can become more skilled. A person who stays consistent can eventually accomplish things that once seemed completely out of reach. Think about the ordinary parts of your day. You wake up. You get ready. You go to work or handle your responsibilities. You speak with people. You make decisions about your money, your time, your relationships, your health, and your future. These moments may feel small, but they are where your life is being shaped. Your future is not created by one dramatic decision. It is strongly influenced by what you repeatedly do when nobody is watching. That is why your belief in your ability matters so much. If you believe you can improve, you are more likely to practice. If you believe your skills can grow, you are more willing to receive criticism. If you believe your situation can change, you begin looking for actions that can produce that change. You do not need to wake up tomorrow feeling completely confident. Confidence can be developed gradually. Start with one promise to yourself that you can keep. Wake up when you said you would. Finish the task you plan to complete. Read a few pages instead of spending another hour scrolling. Put some money aside instead of spending everything. Exercise when you said you would. Have the difficult conversation you have been avoiding. Every time you keep a reasonable promise to yourself, you collect evidence that you can trust your own decisions. That evidence matters. A person who constantly breaks promises to himself eventually begins to doubt his own word. He may make ambitious plans on Monday and abandon them by Wednesday. He may become excited by a new goal and then lose interest when the work becomes uncomfortable. After repeating that cycle, he may say, "I have no discipline." But discipline is not a personality trait that only certain people receive. It is something strengthened through repeated practice. You can begin with something small enough to complete and important enough to matter. Suppose you have wanted to improve your communication skills. You do not need to become an outstanding speaker in 1 month. You can spend 15 minutes each day reading, writing, or practicing. You can record yourself speaking and listen to the recording. You can notice where your words become unclear. You can learn to slow down. After several weeks, you will have more experience than you had before. After several months, you may notice a real difference. The same principle applies to almost every area of life. If you want better finances, learn how money works and examine your spending. If you want better health, improve your food choices, sleep, and physical activity. If you want a better career, develop skills that employers and customers value. If you want stronger relationships, become better at listening, communicating, and keeping your word. If you want greater peace of mind, examine the habits and environments that constantly create unnecessary stress. Your circumstances may be difficult, and some problems may not be your fault, but you still have choices within those circumstances. That distinction is important. You cannot control every event that enters your life. You can control how seriously you prepare, how honestly you evaluate yourself, and how consistently you work on what is within your reach. Do not confuse self-belief with arrogance. Arrogance says, "I have nothing to learn." Healthy confidence says, "I have more to learn, and I am capable of learning it." Arrogance avoids correction. Confidence can accept correction without feeling destroyed by it. Arrogance needs to prove superiority. Confidence focuses on improvement. There will be people who are ahead of you. There will always be someone with more experience, more money, greater talent, better connections, or stronger results. That does not reduce your value. Their progress is not evidence that you must remain where you are. Your responsibility is to become more capable than you were before. You should be able to look at your life 6 months from now and see evidence of development. Your knowledge should be greater. Your habits should be stronger. Your decisions should be more thoughtful. Your ability to handle difficult situations should have improved. Your work should show more skill. Your standards should be higher. That kind of growth begins with a decision that sounds simple but requires serious commitment. Stop assuming that your current ability is your final ability. Maybe you have failed before. Study the failure. Maybe you have made poor financial decisions. Learn from them. Maybe you wasted years. Accept that those years are gone and use the years ahead more wisely. Maybe you disappointed yourself. Do not turn that disappointment into a permanent judgment about who you are. You are allowed to become someone you have never been before. The person who was afraid to speak can learn to communicate. The person who could not manage money can learn financial discipline. The person who struggled with consistency can build a routine. The person who avoided responsibility can become dependable. The person who once needed constant approval can learn to make decisions based on values and long-term goals. None of this happens because you repeat positive words in front of a mirror. It happens because your actions begin supporting a better belief about yourself. When you start believing that you are capable of more, you begin demanding more from your own effort. You become less satisfied with excuses. You start noticing how much time disappears through unnecessary distractions. You become more selective about what you consume, who you listen to, and what you allow to occupy your attention. You may even notice a change in how you feel at the end of the day. Instead of lying in bed thinking about everything you failed to do, you can experience the quiet satisfaction of knowing that you made progress. Maybe you finished an important assignment. Maybe you exercised even though you did not feel like it. Maybe you learned something difficult. Maybe you saved money. Maybe you handled a problem with patience instead of anger. Those moments matter because they change your relationship with yourself. A stronger life is built when you stop waiting for confidence to arrive before taking action. Take responsible action first. Confidence often grows afterward. You do not need everyone to believe in you. You need to become the kind of person who has enough evidence from his own behavior to believe that improvement is possible. Stand up a little straighter because you have responsibilities worth taking seriously. Speak with more care because your words influence your decisions. Work with greater attention because your effort is shaping your ability. Give yourself permission to learn because nobody begins as an expert. Your future should not be decided by the weakest opinion you have ever had about yourself. There is more ability in you than you have used. There is more knowledge you can acquire, more discipline you can develop, more responsibility you can accept, and more useful work you can produce. You do not have to prove that you are better than another person. You have to prove to yourself that you are capable of growth. And when you begin doing that consistently, something important changes. You stop asking whether you are capable of becoming better because your daily behavior starts giving you the answer. You are capable of more. Now your responsibility is to build the habits that make that statement true. Comparison can quietly take control of your life if you allow it. You look at someone who has more money, more experience, a better position, a larger audience, a nicer home, or a more successful career, and suddenly your own progress seems small. You forget what you have already learned because you are measuring yourself against someone standing at a different point in their journey. That habit can make even a meaningful achievement feel disappointing. Your life deserves a better standard than that. There is nothing wrong with noticing what another person has accomplished. In fact, observing people who have developed useful skills can teach you a great deal. The problem begins when observation becomes judgment. You see another person's result and use it as evidence that you are not good enough. You see their confidence and assume they never struggled. You see their success and imagine it happened quickly. You see their present circumstances without seeing the years of decisions that created them. That is not an honest comparison. A person may have spent 10 years developing a skill that you started learning 6 months ago. Another person may have had opportunities that you never received. Someone else may have made better decisions earlier in life. None of these facts mean you should feel inferior. They simply show that people have different starting points, different experiences, and different responsibilities. Your attention is more valuable than you realize. Every hour you spend studying someone else's life is an hour you could have spent improving your own. Every minute you spend wondering why someone else is ahead is a minute you are not using to become more capable. There is a better question to ask yourself. What can I improve today? That question gives you something useful to work with. If your communication is weak, practice communication. If your work is disorganized, create a better system. If you lack knowledge, study. If your finances are unstable, learn to manage your income and expenses. If your body needs more care, improve your daily habits. If you have difficulty keeping commitments, start with one commitment and keep it. Self-development becomes powerful when it becomes practical. You do not need to spend every morning convincing yourself that you are extraordinary. You need to become more useful, more responsible, more skilled, and more dependable. Those qualities create confidence that does not disappear when somebody criticizes you. There is a strange habit many people develop. They want the respect that comes from achievement, but they do not want the routine that produces achievement. They want to be confident, but they avoid situations that require practice. They want financial freedom, but they refuse to examine their spending. They want a strong career, but they do not consistently develop valuable skills. They want a better life while keeping the same daily behavior. That is not how improvement works. You cannot compare your results with another person's results while refusing to compare your habits with theirs. If someone is better at something you want to master, study what they do. How do they spend their mornings? How seriously do they prepare? How often do they practice? What books do they read? What skills have they developed? How do they respond when something goes wrong? How carefully do they manage their time? Study the process instead of envying the outcome. This changes the emotional experience completely. Instead of seeing another successful person as a threat, you can see their example as information. Their results may show you what is possible. Their mistakes may teach you what to avoid. Their discipline may reveal where you need to become stronger. But remember something important. Learning from someone does not mean becoming that person. You have your own responsibilities, your own personality, your own interests, and your own circumstances. You do not need to copy another person's entire life. Take the useful lesson and apply it to your situation. Maybe someone you admire reads for an hour every morning. You may not have an hour. You might have 20 minutes. Use 20 minutes. The purpose is not to reproduce their schedule perfectly. The purpose is to build a habit of learning. Maybe someone exercises for 2 hours every day. You may have a demanding job and family responsibilities. Start with a realistic amount of physical activity that you can maintain. Consistency matters more than making an impressive plan that lasts 4 days. Your development should fit your real life. This is where maturity begins. You stop making excuses, but you also stop making unrealistic promises to yourself. You become honest about what you can do, and then you do it. There is great strength in saying, "This is where I am today, and I am going to improve from here." No shame is required. No dramatic announcement is necessary. You simply begin. You may discover that your biggest competition was never another person. It was the version of yourself that kept choosing comfort over progress. It was the habit of delaying important work. It was the tendency to spend hours consuming information without applying anything. It was the fear of looking inexperienced. It was the desire to receive approval before you had earned confidence through effort. When you recognize that, your attention comes back to where it belongs, your development. Think about a person learning to play an instrument. At the beginning, the sounds may be awkward. The fingers may move slowly. Mistakes happen constantly. If that person compares the first week of practice with a professional musician who has spent 20 years playing, discouragement is almost guaranteed. But if the beginner compares today's performance with last week's performance, progress becomes visible. That is the comparison that can help you. Did you understand something today that confused you last month? Did you handle a difficult conversation better than you would have handled it before? Did you make a wiser financial decision? Did you stay focused longer? Did you become more patient? Did you finish something you normally would have abandoned? Those are meaningful improvements. Do not underestimate small gains because they do not attract attention from other people. Most valuable development happens quietly. Nobody may applaud when you choose to study instead of wasting an evening. Nobody may notice when you save money instead of buying something unnecessary. Nobody may know that you controlled your temper during a difficult conversation, but you know. And that knowledge changes your self-respect. Self-respect becomes stronger when your behavior matches the standards you claim to have. You say you value your future, so you make decisions that protect it. You say you want to become skilled, so you practice. You say you want to be dependable, so you do what you said you would do. Your confidence becomes more stable because it is connected to evidence. This is very different from trying to feel superior to other people. You do not need to walk into a room thinking you are better than everyone there. That attitude creates problems. You may become defensive, careless, and unwilling to learn. Instead, enter the room knowing that you have something to contribute and something to learn. That combination is powerful. You can respect another person's ability without reducing your own. You can admire another person's success without deciding that your future is smaller. You can accept that someone is currently ahead of you without believing that you must remain behind. There will always be someone ahead in one area and behind in another. A person may have excellent business skills but poor communication at home. Another may have financial success but terrible time management. Someone may be physically disciplined but emotionally immature. Human beings are not simple scorecards. So stop reducing your entire worth to one measurement. Your income is one part of your life. Your job title is one part. Your appearance is one part. Your education is one part. Your achievements are one part. None of these alone can tell the whole story of your development. Pay attention to character. Pay attention to your ability to keep promises. Pay attention to how you treat people when you have nothing to gain from them. Pay attention to how you respond when plans fail. Pay attention to whether you take responsibility when you make a mistake. These things reveal who you are becoming. And becoming is the important word. You are not finished. A mistake does not have to become your identity. A disappointing year does not have to determine the next 10 years. A failed business, rejected application, lost opportunity, or poor decision can become part of your education if you are willing to study it honestly. Ask yourself what happened. Ask what you could have done differently. Ask what skill was missing. Ask what information you ignored. Ask what habit contributed to the result. Then make the adjustment. That is development. The person who keeps learning has an advantage over the person who thinks he already knows everything. Your goal is not to reach a point where nobody can teach you anything. Your goal is to remain teachable while becoming increasingly capable. There will be days when progress feels slow. There will be mornings when you do not feel motivated. There will be periods when your effort produces little visible reward. Those moments test whether your commitment depends on emotion. Do the work anyway. Not because every day will feel inspiring, but because your future requires consistency. You can finish today slightly better than you began it. You can learn one useful idea. You can correct one bad habit. You can complete one important task. You can make one decision that your future self will appreciate. Then do it again tomorrow. After enough days, those individual decisions begin to change the quality of your life. You stop looking sideways so often. Your attention becomes stronger. Your standards become clearer. Your work becomes more focused. Your confidence becomes quieter because you no longer need constant proof from other people. You know what you are working on. You know why it matters. And you know that your greatest responsibility is not to become better than somebody else. It is to become more developed than the person you were yesterday. That is a competition worth taking seriously because you can participate in it every single day. Confidence is not something you put on for other people. It is something you build through the way you live when nobody is watching. You can dress well, speak loudly, and appear certain of yourself. But if you do not trust your own decisions, that appearance will not last. Real confidence develops when your daily behavior gives you reasons to respect yourself. There is a difference between believing you can do something and actually preparing yourself to do it. Belief gives you direction, but discipline gives that belief structure. You may have a strong goal, a clear plan, and plenty of excitement at the beginning, but eventually there will be an ordinary morning when you would rather stay in bed. There will be an afternoon when the work feels boring. There will be an evening when your phone seems more interesting than the responsibility in front of you. Those ordinary moments reveal much more about your character than the moments when you feel highly motivated. You cannot build a strong life by depending on your mood. Your mood changes. Your schedule changes. Other people change. Unexpected problems appear. Some days you will feel energetic and confident. Other days you will feel tired, distracted, or uncertain. If your standards change every time your feelings change, your progress will remain unstable. Discipline means having certain things you do because they matter, not because you happen to feel like doing them. This does not require an extreme lifestyle. It requires clear decisions. You decide what deserves your time. You decide what behavior you will no longer accept from yourself. You decide what responsibilities must be completed before entertainment. You decide how much time you will give to learning, work, family, health, and rest. Then you follow those decisions consistently. A confident person does not need to announce every intention. He does not need to tell everyone about his plans. He understands that his behavior will eventually reveal his standards. If you say you are serious about your future but repeatedly waste the hours available to you, your actions are communicating something different. Your daily routine is a form of communication. It tells you what you truly consider important. Look at the first hour of your day. What happens during that time? Do you immediately reach for your phone and begin consuming other people's opinions? Do you move through the morning in a hurry because you stayed up too late? Do you start the day already feeling behind? Or have you created a simple routine that gives you enough time to think, prepare, and begin your responsibilities with some control? You do not need a complicated morning routine. You need a useful one. Wake up at a reasonable time. Take care of your basic needs. Give yourself a few quiet minutes. Review what matters that day. Start with an important responsibility before giving your attention to endless distractions. Even small changes can affect how you experience the entire day. When you begin the day with a sense of control, you carry a different attitude into your work. That attitude does not mean you become arrogant. In fact, the strongest confidence is usually calm. You do not need to prove that you are superior. You do not need to interrupt people to show intelligence. You do not need to turn every conversation into a competition. You can listen. You can think before responding. You can admit when you do not know something. You can accept useful criticism. You can say, "I made a mistake," without feeling that your entire identity has been attacked. That is strength. A person who cannot admit mistakes is difficult to improve because every correction feels like an insult. A person who can examine his behavior honestly has a much greater opportunity to grow. There will be times when someone points out something you need to change. Your first reaction may be defensive. That is normal. But do not allow the first emotion to make the final decision. Take a moment. Consider whether there is truth in what you heard. If there is, use it. If there is not, continue without unnecessary conflict. You do not have to accept every opinion about you, but you should be willing to examine useful information. That is how confidence becomes connected to maturity. You should also become careful about the promises you make. Every promise creates an expectation. When you repeatedly promise yourself that you will change and then ignore your own commitment, your confidence suffers. You begin to think, "I know what I should do, but I never do it." Change that pattern. Make fewer promises and keep more of them. If you decide to study for 30 minutes, study for 30 minutes. If you decide to finish a specific assignment before watching entertainment, finish it. If you decide to save a certain amount of money each month, follow through. If you decide to exercise 3 days a week, put those sessions into your schedule and treat them as responsibilities. The size of the promise is less important than your consistency. You are teaching yourself whether your word has value. Imagine how different you feel when you know you can rely on yourself. You wake up and do what needs to be done. You handle your responsibilities. You stop making excuses for every inconvenience. You begin to trust your own decisions because you have evidence from your behavior. That is confidence. And confidence changes the way you enter difficult situations. You may still feel nervous before an important presentation. You may still feel uncomfortable when meeting someone new. You may still feel uncertain when starting a business, changing careers, or learning a difficult skill. Confidence does not remove every uncomfortable feeling. It helps you move forward while the feeling is present. There is an important lesson here. You do not have to wait until fear disappears. You can prepare properly and act responsibly even when you feel nervous. Preparation is one of the best ways to strengthen confidence. If you are going to speak in front of people, practice your material. If you have an important meeting, study the subject beforehand. If you are applying for a job, improve your skills and prepare for the interview. If you want to start a business, understand your customers, costs, competition, and responsibilities. Confidence becomes stronger when you know you have done the work. A person who spends no time preparing may try to compensate by acting extremely confident. But deep down, he knows the difference between appearance and ability. You do not need that. You need competence. Develop the ability to do what you claim you can do. If you want to be known as a dependable person, become dependable. If you want people to trust your judgment, improve your judgment. If you want to be respected at work, become someone who produces useful results and treats people fairly. Respect cannot be demanded into existence. It develops through repeated behavior. Your posture matters too, but not because standing tall magically changes your life. Your physical behavior can influence how seriously you carry yourself. Sit properly. Speak clearly. Look at people when appropriate. Avoid constantly apologizing for reasonable statements. Give your thoughts enough time to become clear before you speak. You are allowed to occupy your place in the conversation. You do not have to shrink yourself because someone else has a stronger personality. At the same time, confidence does not mean dominating every room. Sometimes confidence is allowing another person to speak. Sometimes it is asking for help. Sometimes it is changing your mind after learning something new. Sometimes it is walking away from an argument that does not deserve your energy. You become stronger when you stop needing to win every small interaction. Your standards should also include the people you spend time with. The attitudes around you can influence your own behavior. If you constantly spend time with people who mock ambition, complain about every opportunity, and discourage personal responsibility, you may eventually become more comfortable with those habits. Choose your environment carefully. You do not need to reject everyone who thinks differently from you. You simply need to recognize what influences your behavior. Spend time with people who encourage learning, responsibility, honesty, and useful effort. Then become that kind of person for others. There may be someone watching your behavior who needs an example of consistency. You may never know it. A younger person might notice how you handle pressure. A colleague might notice that you keep your word. A family member might notice that you continue learning even when life becomes difficult. Your behavior can influence people without you giving a speech. That is another reason to carry yourself with discipline. Your standards are not only about achievement, they are about the quality of person you are becoming while pursuing achievement. Do not become successful at the expense of your integrity. Do not become so focused on being impressive that you become unreliable. Do not sacrifice every relationship for work. Do not treat people poorly because you believe you are more important than they are. A strong life requires more than financial or professional progress. You want ability and character together. You want confidence without arrogance. You want ambition without disrespect. You want discipline without becoming unable to rest. You want high standards without constantly attacking yourself. That balance takes practice. Some days you will handle it well. Other days you will not. The answer is not to abandon the standard because you failed to meet it once. Examine what happened and return to the behavior you want. A disciplined person is not someone who never makes mistakes. A disciplined person is someone who returns to the right direction after making one. That distinction can change the way you respond to setbacks. If you miss one workout, do not turn it into a month of inactivity. If you overspend one weekend, correct your budget the next week. If you waste an afternoon, do not waste the entire evening because the day is already ruined. If you lose focus for an hour, return to the task. One poor decision does not require another poor decision. You have the ability to reset your behavior during the same day. That is personal responsibility. And personal responsibility is one of the strongest foundations of confidence because it removes the habit of waiting for somebody else to fix your life. You begin asking different questions. What can I control? What can I improve? What needs to change? What action can I take today? What standard have I been avoiding? Those questions put your attention back on your own behavior. Carry yourself like a person who respects his future. Take your work seriously. Keep your commitments. Prepare before important situations. Speak honestly. Listen carefully. Learn continuously. Correct yourself when necessary. Do not allow temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. You do not have to convince the world that you are capable. Build the ability. You do not have to demand respect. Become respectable through your conduct. You do not have to announce that you are confident. Live in a way that gives you confidence. And when your discipline becomes stronger, your presence changes naturally. You walk into your responsibilities with greater calm. You stop needing constant approval. You stop being controlled by every distraction. You become more comfortable with hard work because you have practiced doing difficult things repeatedly. That is when the idea of being the best begins to take on a healthier meaning. It is not about believing that nobody has anything to teach you. It is about deciding that you will not remain below your potential simply because growth requires effort. You can respect the ability of others while demanding excellence from yourself. You can remain humble while carrying yourself with confidence. You can recognize how far you have to go without ignoring how far you have already come. Your standard is simple. Become more capable, more disciplined, more prepared, and more dependable than you were before. Then keep going. Because eventually, the confidence you once had to force will become a natural result of the way you live.